Welcome to the Course One podcast. In this podcast, we explore the emerging open financial system. We dive into scalability, interoperability, proof-of-stake, blockchains, and many other parts of this coming financial singularity. Tune in every Monday to dive deep into these cutting-edge projects and protocols with Course One team members and guests.
Hi, and welcome to the Chorus One podcast. Today I'm here with Jordan Bibla of Lunie, CEO and co-founder. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Felix. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great having you on. You have like a long background in the proof of stake ecosystem, working on Lunie, like one of the first staking focused wallets, I would say. So maybe to start off, why don't you tell us a bit about your background and how you started working on Lunie, or as it was called back then, Voyager?
Yeah, I guess the space is not that old, so it's easy to be around for a long time. I worked at Tendermint for a year and a half on the wallet team there. Yeah, as you said, it was called Voyager, and basically it was just a UI for. Actually, it was an Electron app, desktop app for interacting with the Cosmos Hub, and we were working on that for a while before launch, and then right around when Cosmos Hub launched, my co-founder Fabo and I left Tendermint and decided to bring Voyager, to kind of pivot Voyager, change some of the thinking, and bring what we had been working on to a broader audience with more networks, and we felt like what we were doing was interesting and it would be valuable for many other networks aside from the Cosmos Hub. So now on Lunie we have the Cosmos Hub, eMoney, Terra, Kusama, Polkadot's coming, of course, and many more on the roadmap.
That's cool. So really the idea is, right, you want to have this kind of multi-network wallet that helps people with staking and governance. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the things we noticed, we learned early on is like proof of stake systems are fundamentally different than proof of work systems. They're, you have node operators, bakers, or validators, whatever you want to call them. And these are public, and some of them are anonymous, but a lot of public companies and individuals who, competing for attention and for stake and delegations. And so we felt like, though we have some of the features that you would associate with a wallet, we're really trying to build something that's more about the community. Like, these are active communities. There's a lot of them have on-chain governance systems. So you have different personalities. Felt like that was different enough that we could build something that would be, specialized for this kind of brave new world where there's, hundreds of proof of stake blockchains. And we felt like there wasn't really anybody doing this. A lot of there are great Ethereum wallets, great Bitcoin wallets, but they don't really have this kind of community focus. And so staking governance is what we're focused on. And as time goes on, more kind of community oriented features.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? I also, in the beginning, I think wallets totally different than what they are now. Also, even in the Ethereum space, right? Like in the beginning, really what you wanted to do with your wallet probably is just like store the coins there and not do much with it. And now I guess even staking was kind of the first thing where you're using the coins in some way other than like sending it to some ICO address maybe. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see.
Yes, staking's kind of like native DeFi. I think, like, right? It's a more complex economic system, but it's not. The key functions aren't in smart contracts necessarily. They're baked into the protocol.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you compare it, I think on the Ethereum space at the same time, while we have like the staking and you guys, for example, doing like a wallet that's focused on that, we have other wallets in the Ethereum space that kind of focus on this DeFi angle and integrate all these protocols in there. So like, let's say something like Argent, putting Compound and Maker in there. So I think it's interesting that the wallets generally are more developing into this kind of financial tool, or more like a product that you actually use much more than I think how you had used the wallet before that, where maybe you just put your coins there and kind of sit there and you wait until you want to sell them again. Yeah, so maybe before we continue kind of discussing a bit around wallets and what your guys' thinking is there and the whole staking space, which I also definitely want to cover, maybe you can just give us like a little bit of overview, what kind of products there are in Lunie right now, or what you guys are working on.
Yeah, sure. So I would say the main product is a web interface that supports right now, as I said, the Cosmos Hub, Terra, eMoney, Kusama, and many more in testnets and coming soon. This is a web interface. It's kind of like a hybrid between a block explorer and a wallet, I guess. We have people visit Lunie and just see data in a way that's easy to understand. We don't like force you to sign up or make an address or create a seed or anything just to access this blockchain data. So we show like a portfolio overview if you have an address already and you're participating in these systems. We show validator list, validator profiles, governance proposals, give you ways to vote, to create proposals, vote, deposit, etc. And then there's some simple block explorer features that you'd expect from a web interface. You can interact with that using just a browser or with a Ledger hardware wallet if that's something if that's how you store your keys or manage your keys. We have a browser extension which is pretty simple. It's like a multi-network signer. So you can store your keys there, create a seed, restore a seed, and sign transactions with Lunie. So it's a risk profile, different kind of security story, but a simple browser extension. Not really like MetaMask because right now you can't use it with any other websites, and it doesn't support it. You can't actually like create transactions from the extension. It's really just like a key management solution. And we also have Lunie on iOS and Android, and it's a similar story. I mean, there's access to all of this data. You can interact with all these networks, see what's happening. Yeah,
that's really great. There's really a lot of stuff already there, and I think it's probably one of the most advanced kind of wallets that you would use for staking and governance that really I feel like I have been using a lot. So great that it's there, that you don't have to use the command line for everything.
Yeah, I think it's a step up from the command line for sure. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I mean, maybe, we can kind of talk a little bit about this, right? I feel a lot of these newer networks really struggle with these UX problems even more, I think, than you'd expect. I thought like a lot of these new networks claim, well, we are like better UX, we're gonna beat Ethereum based on that, and then you try to like actually interact when they're launching, and then you have some like probably even depreciated documentation about how to use their thing. You have to like you find the Ledger app even in this developer mode thing and so on. And I just feel, it's very early probably, or how do you feel about that? Like, do you have the same impression?
Yeah, definitely. I actually recently published a post about this. I called it How to Bootstrap a Proof of Stake Community. And it's a huge undertaking. I mean, launching a network is an enormous project. Like, doesn't matter what the particularities are, change from each one. But at the end of the day, coordinating, the software releases, the testnets, maybe an incentivized testnet program, then mainnet, recruiting a validator set, thinking about the developer experience, thinking about the user experience for the token holder or the validators. It's a huge project. And so the post I shared was, kind of speaking to this, like there's so many stakeholders for a new project, a new network, even with tools like the Cosmos SDK and Substrate. Like, if you're not building your own blockchain from scratch, which is, of course, like a huge engineering challenge and technical project, even if you're using a kind of out-of-the-box solution, you still have to build this platform and this network effect, and you have to appeal to at least three different significant stakeholder groups. So it's an extremely complex, it's probably overwhelming undertaking. And so I think, what we see is, a lot of these projects are really just trying to get the thing out, trying to get enough interest from the critical infrastructure providers. So they have to recruit their own developers, their own development team. They got to build the software. I mean, you got to have a good idea. You got to figure out the legal and regulatory side. Then you got to recruit. You got to build the software, release the software. You got to recruit a validator set to run the software. And yeah, what we see is getting to mainnet is really just the start, right? Then you have to have a story for developer adoption. Documentation is hard to keep up to date when there's rapid iterations happening. So yeah, we see like the token holder experience or like the end user experience. It's kind of seems like the last thing these projects are really, a lot of projects are worried about. And so it's kind of like, it's tough we have a lot of conversations with projects like this, and it's just early. There's a lot going on. And, I think the end user experience is something that will improve over time.
Yeah, I surely hope so. And teams like you and hopefully also us will kind of trying to make this a little bit better, I think. And maybe one thing that I also think here, I'm wondering about how you think about this, like, because obviously all these networks, sometimes the protocols are really different. You find it hard to kind of build these different networks into the same UI, or how has your experience been with that? Like,
yeah, for sure. I think the core. That's the work I find the most interesting. Is I think the role of a good product and a good user experience provider is to abstract the complexity and the underlying technical or architectural decisions. We're wrapping up our Kusama integration, and we'll support Polkadot when the mainnet launches. Yeah, extremely different from Cosmos staking, which is kind of where Lunie came from. So we did our best to abstract this user experience so it feels kind of the same. Like, I think for the end user, you want a simple and familiar experience, no matter which protocol you're interacting with. At least if we're just talking about staking and governance, right? These are, I think the user story is the same, and the user flow can be the same if you start with some good design thinking, and you dig into the differences. You can come up with a system that makes all of these protocols feel easy and simple and pleasant to interact with. I mean, that's what really drives us and drives what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's really the core thing you should try to optimize for. And I mean, we're seeing how hard this is, especially if you really want to like convey all the information that these protocols have, right? Like, maybe there's that many days of unbonding. Maybe you can like nominate different validators. It changes your rewards and so on, right? It's really like a huge task, and I think it's probably like a very interesting space, and anyone out there that wants to work on that should look into probably. That's, I think, really
there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw early on forks of Lunie where, for example, Terra has a fork of Lunie, and they really dove deeply into their protocol, right? They show a lot more data. They show a lot more network specific information that's only relevant to that network. And we're not providing the deepest experience for every network. We're really focused on like, the top layer, like, the simple interactions, and you can always dive deeper once you have your footing, once you have some basic understanding of how things work. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a product where you showed all the details of every network that you were interacting with would be a really overwhelming experience. Yeah.
So the way you see it is potentially more, there's like, let's say Lunie or some kind of basic interface, and then if you get deeper into the protocol, you will somehow use like some other product that is built for that, and maybe can you think you can use like the same keys there, or how do you see that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so because these projects are early still. I think there isn't a huge demand yet for a lot of the network specific things. I think people are just kind of flirting with this idea and experimenting with these new systems. We're going to be launching Kava soon on Lunie, and that's just the staking and governance features for now. Kava has their own interfaces for interacting with the interacting with the stablecoin, for example. So yeah, I think that's probably okay for now. We have to kind of listen to our users and hear what they want, and I think for the foreseeable future, in a world where there are hundreds of blockchains, it's hard to imagine one product ruling them all, so to speak. I think it's probably similar to what's happening in Ethereum, where you have a bunch of dApps, hundreds if not thousands of dApps now, different protocols that people are looking to interact with, but kind of the top ones surface to the more general Ethereum wallets like Compound or Maker, for example.
Like I guess that's one thing. Maybe I also want to return a little bit to what you just said with like listen to the users. Maybe it will also be interesting to hear what your guys' experience has been there, or what's like the pain points that you are seeing. But maybe before that, back to these integrating these steps. I think one thing that you see a lot in Ethereum, right? If you want to try out some dApp, you usually, first of all, you're like presented with this sign up screen, and you see like, oh, you want to use like MetaMask, you just want to put in your address, you want to use your ledger, you want to use whatever else. Do you think it will stay like this, that we first of all have like decide like, oh, which thing do I use? Or is there something you see, like I guess Wallet Connect or whatever, some standard that could emerge there? Is that something you...
I've been feeling for a long time like we need to stop as an industry asking people to make an account or create an address before they engage with whatever system it is you're trying to get people to engage with. I think most wallets are assuming that there's no value in what they've built unless you have an address and you have tokens. And I think I don't know. To me, it feels fundamentally wrong. Like, I love downloading all the every crypto product I can find onto my phone and like playing around, and like the majority of them force you to create a seed, like go through this security, like, okay, here's 24 words, write them down, then you have to prove to the app that you actually wrote them down in the right order just to get in and like explore what's available inside the app. What dApps did they support? Maybe to read a governance proposal, to see a list of validators. To me, that feels like it's an unnecessary barrier. I would love to see that kind of design pattern change, because I think it'll make a lot of crypto products a lot more accessible and engaging. In terms of, maybe that's a little bit of a tangent from your question. I don't know how to solve the kind of the key problem across multiple products or multiple networks. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, sure, totally. I think I didn't expect you to come up with the solution here on the spot. So.
If I had a solution, I'd probably...
you wouldn't tell it.
No. Of course I would. That maybe that's what we'd be working on at Lunie. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, makes perfect sense. That's going to be interesting to see that. But I fully agree. Right, that has been a lot of problems, and I think the few products where this is not needed so much, or like even websites, you see, I think they have like much more traction, right? Even if it's like CoinMarketCap or something, where you just like go on the site and see some data first before you have to do anything.
Yeah. There's a lot of value. I mean, even looking at Anthem, like it's clearly built around an address, but you offer an address. So if user doesn't have one, they can still see the value that the product offers and engage with the tool. And that's excellent. I mean, that's the way things need to be going.
Yeah, thanks. I think, that's one approach. I think the other one is also, like, as you said, like seeing the validator list and governance proposal. You could probably do that right before you even do anything. I think that's also a good approach, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, maybe let's go back to what you're about the users. Like, do you have anything interesting to share? Any stories or anything from, like, Lunie is now already probably live for more than a year. And I guess many people used it to stake on Cosmos. And like, what have you experienced as are like the main pain points these people had, or anything interesting that you can share?
Yeah, sure. One thing that's hard about building a great product on new protocols or on new networks is that the tooling just isn't as mature. And I think one way this shows itself is like figuring out fees and gas in new networks where it's like largely untested and the markets aren't super efficient. Like you can still send like zero fee transactions in Cosmos. So, but like we don't know when that's going to change, and there isn't like a great like gas station tool or anything like that. So that's been I think a point of frustration for users. Like we set the fees a little higher than maybe what people expect, and they go through. But if we try and lower them, sometimes they fail. And this is something that I think in a more mature ecosystem isn't an issue. So this is just like, I think the growing pains of a new project. The concept of restaking and unstaking in Cosmos is very complicated. I think it's the concept of so you stake, you have you can start earning rewards, you're sharing your vote. Like it's a complex activity, right? It's a one transaction, but it's a complex activity. And then there's the unbonding period or the unlocking period. The concept of restaking and the concept in Cosmos of entries. So you can have up to 7 entries with the same address grouping, the user and the validator grouping. These are things that are, it's like we have to find the balance of explaining the stuff up front. If you try and explain too much up front, then it can be confusing, because then it's kind of disorienting. You hear about all of these rules. So yeah, we've had, some users have shared with us like, they unstaked, but they really wanted to restake. So now they're frustrated because they have to wait 21 days till they can stake again.
Oh no.
It's hard. These are hard lessons. Like, these are hard things in new systems. It's hard to communicate this stuff. Should we, when somebody goes to unstake, should we have a big banner for everybody that's like, just so you know, there's this thing called restaking, and I know it's a bit confusing, but maybe you should read about it. It's a complex system.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And then on top of that, it's actually also different between every protocol and different terminologies. And I really think, there needs to be some either, you can abstract it away better in some way. I guess that's kind of where this whole liquid staking thing in a way comes in, where right, maybe it's easier to just have some kind of token representing the stake, and then the user has to just hold this, right? And you in that way you can kind of get rid of some of these protocol intricacies that probably are confusing to users. At least that's what I see.
Yeah.
Or or how do you think?
I mean, it's one. It's one of the advantages of custodial staking, I suppose, right? Like they're abstracting. I mean, they're essentially offering a kind of centralized liquid staking service. So it's simpler. They get to abstract the particularities of the protocol and just say, if you want to stake, go ahead. When you don't want to stake anymore, well, that's fine. No problem. Of course, there's a cost. I mean, literally a cost. Like they'll take off the top of your rewards, and you're contributing to the centralization of the network as opposed to the decentralization of the network. But depending on where you land on that spectrum, it's a compelling offering, compelling user experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely it's too compelling right now. I mean, that you
Sure.
really have like a very, very small minority that really is willing to go through all these pains to be like staking non-custodially. And yeah, I fear, or like I guess at Chorus One, we all fear that this is like this other design pattern is gonna like dominate, and hopefully, yeah, we can figure something out that you can have the same experience, or essentially what would be even better, right? Like a better experience in a non-custodial way. Maybe that will come automatically when there's like more stuff happening on chain and you're actually like using your tokens more, and the centralized service will have problems like keeping up with that kind of innovation or like integrations. But yeah, for now it definitely seems like a good trade-off to just say, okay, I'm just going to do it on the exchange. And I can understand like not everyone has time to read up how all these protocols work and so on before they engage with them, because they have like other day jobs and whatever. It's actually a full-time job almost.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is still, these are networks that cater to small communities. And these, I would consider, Lunie a fairly niche product for now.
Yeah,
we're not targeting, mainstream adoption. We're not we don't have the delusion that one day we'll have just around the corner is like the next 10 million users. It's not. This is early experimental. I mean, there's a lot of innovation happening, but it's early days.
Yeah,
that's why it's so exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and it's probably also I feel like generally probably an interesting space to be in, or a good one. But I guess it also leads us a bit to like the painful, a hard question that wallets, I think, in the space generally had to answer or have to figure out. Like basically, what kind of business is there, right? Like right now we're saying there's not really a lot of users, so like many business models probably don't work because you have like this small user base, but at the same time also like no one really wants to pay directly for the wallet. So what is your, I mean, answer however you want, but like what is your thinking about around the business model right now, or where do you think is the best, what's the best way for a wallet to? Sure.
I think it's a good question. I mean, right now, I think the best thing a wallet can do is not be a wallet. So, I mean, we're very excited about some products that we're releasing soon, and though it's a small audience and a small community, I think there's a lot of dedication. Like it's a very active and driven community. So, maybe we're not talking about venture scalable numbers, but I think there's still opportunity to build valuable software products for people that care about this space. Something that we're working on that I'm really excited about is basically notifications and alerting service. And I think right now there's so much activity. There's a lot of noise, and we think we're developing something that will help kind of distill the signal, so to speak. There's a number of, I know as someone on the Chorus One team, like there's so many projects, there's so much happening on chain and off chain, and so we're working on a notification service that will kind of aggregate all of this information, let the user kind of configure what they want to know about, what they don't want to know about. We're pretty excited about that, and that'll be like a premium feature or a premium product. So, simple monetization model. But yeah, this space is early and experimental, and so are we. I mean, we're trying to figure it out. We're grateful for the support of the foundations who give out grants and help teams like us, or small teams like build good software. But we're figuring it out.
Yeah, of course. It sounds interesting. I mean, that's definitely one interesting way to go that I can see working. So also this notification, it's also like about what is happening to your account, right? I guess. Is it like you get some notification when your unstaking is finished or something like this? Or is it also just about news too?
Yeah. So yeah, we're starting with on-chain stuff. So for every network that we support on Lunie, you can basically follow any addresses that are important to you. So if it's yours, that's fine. Like you don't have to like sign a transaction or anything. You just put in whatever addresses you care about, whether those are validator addresses, maybe they're validators you're staked with. Maybe they're just validators your friends run. Maybe they're
Whales.
competitors in the case of correspondent. Maybe they're whales. Yeah. So you just, you tell us which things you care about, which characters in this system you care about, and we'll let you know when they do things that are noteworthy, right? Like if there's a slashing event, if it's double signing or downtime, if they change their picture or their logo, if they update their website, if their commission changes. I mean, it's amazing to me. There's stuff happening literally every in Cosmos, like 8 seconds, and I think most people don't realize, like, when things that actually directly impact them are happening, people don't, unless you have your own alerting and monitoring system set up, which I know that some validators do for their own setups. I think people will be surprised when they see how much is actually happening.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I totally agree. I mean, I don't know if you want to like have a push notification every time someone changes their profile picture or something, but it's definitely a very interesting feature. And maybe like one anecdote that I have here that I think is really interesting too, right? There's that I know about in Tezos. So essentially, there are a lot of people like wallets or accounts in Tezos still staking with bakers that are basically out of business for months and months on months, and potentially they don't even know about it, right? And something like that would, I guess, help them, and hopefully.
For sure.
So yeah,
for sure. It's the same with Cosmos. If you look at the inactive set, it's not a huge number, but there's a number of tokens staked to validators that are not validating, because you don't know. I mean, if you unless you're checking every day or twice a day, there's so much happening you don't realize. I mean, the notification I think is cool. It's when the rank changes, right? If a voting power changes enough that the validator moves up or down a position, I think that's something that is noteworthy. It's like, it doesn't need to take up your whole day. You don't need to read a whole blog post about it, but like, it's nice to know.
Definitely, yeah. That is super interesting stuff. I do like that. That sounds like a really cool product, and I am looking forward to seeing that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Coming soon.
Nice. Definitely. Also, like, to our listeners, right? So I think you also mentioned some other stuff. We'll just put those in the show description if you're looking for it. Maybe I'll even find I think there was some post or something about like how many addresses are inactive on Tezos. I think that was kind of interesting data to see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe, I guess we're already talking for quite a bit. So maybe like a final thing or final kind of topic that I want to talk about is more, just generally how you see the staking space evolve, and maybe what you're most excited about. I guess it could also be projects or like some developments that you think will be like important for in the next few months.
Sure.
That comes to mind.
I think, sure. So I mean, obviously, IBC is highly anticipated. I don't claim to know what that's going to look like, or after IBC is functional, what that really means for this internet of blockchains, so to speak. I think it's fascinating to follow, and it's the Game of Zones is a very exciting initiative. Yeah, I think IBC, and I think liquid staking, in some capacity. I don't know what form it will take, or really what it will look like, but I think these are exciting. These will be milestones that really move the needle for the space. And of course, I mean, ETH2. We've been looking closely at ETH2 and following along, and it's a very different model of staking. I'm interested to see what kind of contracts emerge for staking pools. Interested to see how much control of Ethereum the big exchanges are able to accrue, which I think is a big concern. I think those are like the the big trends I'm following.
Yeah, super interesting. I guess these are really some really big things that are really important for this space. I would totally agree there. I guess, I don't even know if there's much to add. I guess maybe one thing that I kind of find interesting, I mean, also in Ethereum, do you plan to support this, or do you think that will be covered by kind of Ethereum wallets already?
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't know, truthfully. I mean, we're trying to understand really, what our impact could be. I think the natural place would be, to leverage staking pools, but there isn't a ton of development there yet. There's an opportunity to build some, validator dashboards, or, maybe more on the block explorer side, specifically around staking. But I would say we're in the exploratory phase. We're also a little bit, we tend to be overly cautious with things that are in test nets. We've too many times spent a lot of time, debugging and fixing and solving for things that end up being different once mainnet comes around. So, something we're following closely, but no immediate plans.
That's actually an interesting point too, right? Like these kind of upgrades or even changes to protocols and how they impact you as the wallet, which probably the protocol designer at that point doesn't think about too much, but it does have
things break often. so yeah,
Is there some strategy? So the strategy for you guys is basically wait until it's somewhat mature and you can be a little bit more sure that it's not going to change too much under you. That's kind of the...
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess that is the best you can do. Otherwise, you would probably be, if you wait too long, you're too late. So you also want to be there early, right? Because in the beginning, most people probably use this network. So
it's a hard balance for sure.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much. A really awesome conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Felix.
Any last words for our listeners?
Thanks for listening. Check out Lunie. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much again. Yeah. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Chorus One podcast. Visit chorus.one for more information about our work. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to stay tuned on new episodes airing every Monday.